And it's time for part 9 of the Land of Raw. Now, Arthur and Wyn had just bumped into some rather sinister looking scarecrows, and they're pedalling through Raw now, trying to get away from them as fast as possible, which I think I'd be doing exactly the same thing. And look at chapter 19. We stay in the shadows of the forest until we reach a path that winds up into the mountains. We climb higher and higher until there isn't a bird or blade of grass in sight, just stones and rocks and volcanic dust that gets into my eyes and throat. When I feel like my lungs might burst, I stop to catch my breath and check the map. There's not far to go. The crow's nest is just ahead of us, beyond the next mountain, where the cliffs meet the sea. I push off and pedal hard after Wyn, trying to ignore the pain in my legs. Seeing those scarecrows has frightened me. Is that what Grandaddy's like right now? Cold and trapped and staring into space. Up ahead, Wyn disappears round a bend and I follow. "Wyn!" I shout. "When you get stuffed, how long have you got?" "Before you turn into a scarecrow for good." We never knew for sure, but Rose said it was to do with how old you were. You're 11, so you'd have 11 hours. I almost smile. That's just the sort of bizarre rule Rose or I would have made up. But if Wyn is right, at least that gives us 72 hours to get to Grandad. No less than that by now. The thought makes me pedal with a renewed energy, forcing my way up the hill. When my heart is racing and I don't think I can go any further, the path levels out and we start to go downhill. "Look, there's a crack," says Wyn. The crack in the earth now runs alongside the path. Mist rolls down from the mountain top, and we follow the crack as it leads towards the sound of thundering waves. When I can taste the salty tang of the sea, I know we're getting close. Wyn hits the brakes and I skid to stop behind him. "We're here!" he shouts. We've come out on a rocky cliff. Mist swirls around us and the wind is so powerful I have to hold on tight to the handlebars of my bike. The bottomless ocean lies in front of us, its waves pounding at the base of the cliff. The mist thins, and far across the sea I see a monstrous shape rising out of the water. "The crow's nest," I whisper. Wyn puts a hand on my shoulder. "We're nearly there, mates." Croaky's castle clings to a rock and looks impossibly tall. It has 4 towers that twist like blackened branches towards the sky, and each tower is topped by a jumble of twigs that look like giants' rooks' nests. Round windows puncture the walls, light flickering behind them. Even though the sea separates us, I still feel like the windows are blinking eyes watching me. I swallow. It's a bit bigger than I remember. Suddenly, more than anything, I wish that Rose was standing next to me. I could do with some of her fearlessness right now. "So where's this magic road?" Wyn sits down and points at the sea. "Keep watching and you'll see it. It's magic, remember?" I sit next to him. "Yeah, you keep saying." "Magic," Wyn whispers. "Like me!" Then he points his wand, cries, "Plump, bubble!" and a small balloon appears in the air. It deflates with a sad squeal, disappearing over the edge of the cliff. He turns to me with an awestruck look. "I've never magicked up a balloon before." "I liked it," I say. Then we go back to staring at the sea. The bottomless ocean is wild here. Waves smash against each other and the wind flies over the surface of the sea with a mournful wail. I can see the jagged mountain peaks of the end far away in the distance. Sitting here with Wyn, I feel like I'm at the very edge of the world. No, I feel like I'm at the very edge of something far stranger than the world. This is a good feeling because it makes me think anything could happen now. A magic road could even appear that will lead us all the way to the crow's nest. Only it doesn't appear, and after half an hour all that's happened is Wyn's done some more rubbish magic and I've got an achy bum. "It's just waves, Wyn," I say. "Loads and loads of waves." "Look!" He scrambles forward and points. "There it is, the magic road." All I can see is the sea. Same as before, but then a wave sucks back and I spot something just under the surface. It's a big flat rock covered in seaweed, and then I see another and another until the waves roll over them and they disappear. "They'll come back," says Wyn. He's right. Slowly the tide goes out, making the sea level drop until a whole line of rocks is revealed. Look at that. There they are. All leading all the way to them and up to the crow's nest. Looks ominous, doesn't it? "I found it the day after the ground cracked open," says Wyn. "This is where the crack runs out across the sea and somehow it pushed up the land, although you can only see it at low tide." He nudges me and grins. "If we follow it, we can stroll up to the crow's nest and walk right in." I look at the chain of rocks. They do lead to the crow's nest, but it's not like any road I've ever seen. A road is smooth and covered in tarmac and you can travel along it safely. But these rocks have great big gaps between them, like giant stepping stones, and in some places the road is just a pile of boulders covered in seaweed. I squint into the distance. You really think we can go along there and get to the crow's nest? Wynne nods confidently. I know we can. I've done it. Really? You climbed over all those rocks, jumped over the gaps and got to the castle before the time came in? Well, not all the way, Wynne admits, but close. It was getting dark and I was hungry, and I saw this massive octopus. He shivers. It really freaked me out. But I'm sure I could have done it if I'd wanted to. I lean forward. The road starts about halfway down the cliff. How did you even get on the first rock? Wynne's eyes light up. That's the best bit. To get to the magic road, we have to go down the magic tunnel. Of course we do. Before I can even ask what the magic tunnel is, Wynne's jumped up and climbed on his bike. Come on, he says. I cycle after Wynne, back the way we've just come. After a few minutes, he stops and points at the ground. Look! The crack disappears into the rock face at this point, but when Wynne lifts a curtain of shriveled ivy, I realise that it's actually cut a narrow tunnel right through the rock. Behold, the magic tunnel, Wynne says. Then he pushes off and cycles between the leaves. I follow him down the dripping tunnel, the wheels on my bike slithering over wet stones. Wynne starts whooping as our bikes shoot along, getting faster and faster. What's so magical about this tunnel? I shout, ducking to avoid a dangling root. It's so steep, Wynne cries, and I see that he's right. The tunnel is sloping dramatically downhill. I squeeze my brakes, then I remember that I don't have any brakes. My bike picks up speed. Wynne, where does this tunnel come out? Here, he cries, hitting his brakes. Right on the magic road. I swerve to the left and zoom past him. Directly ahead is the opening of the tunnel. Mate, Wynne calls. You might want to slow down. I put my feet on the ground. But all this does is make tiny stones fly up in my face. I can't! I yell, and my bike hurtles out of the tunnel, straight towards the thin spit of rock covered in seaweed. I see the flash of waves smashing against it as I shoot straight across it. Keep pedalling, yells Wynne, and don't look down. I do what he says. I don't have any choice. I zoom along the spit of rock until it opens out into a lovely wide space. Suddenly the wheels of my bike skid on a fat bit of seaweed. The bike slips out from under me and I crash down. Sea spray rains down and the wheels on the bike spin. Wynne laughs so gnarly. I lift up my head and see him standing at the mouth of the tunnel. After carefully propping up his bike, he picks his way over the narrow rock, avoiding the worst bits of seaweed and pausing whenever a particularly large wave strikes. He helps me to my feet. That was the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. I was tempted to try it myself, but, you didn't want to die? I pull seaweed out of my hair and shuffle towards the middle of the rock where it feels a bit safer. Yeah, something like that. So what now? I look along the line of rocks that leads to the crow's nest. From down here, the castle manages to appear both enormous and unnervingly far away. Mist drifts across the sea and starts to roll over the magic road. We start jumping, says Wynne. It's fun. He walks to the edge of the rock we're standing on and takes a big leap, landing on the next one. I go to follow him, but when I get to the edge, I stop. The rock I'm standing on is big and flat. It feels safe, but the next rock is about a metre away, and it's small and curved. Wynne made it look easy jumping across like that, but now my toes are hovering on the edge, and I'm not sure if I can make it. And when the waves pull back, I see the drop. Wynne shouts back, Do you want to save your granddad, Arthur? And then he's off, leaping from one rock to the next. So I focus on Grandad trapped somewhere inside the castle, arms outstretched, cold and alone, and I jump across the gap. I land clumsily, my knees slamming down and my hands scraping across barnacles. Then I get to my feet. One down, only another 50 or so to go. I'm coming! I shout. Chapter 20. We don't just get to jump over rocks. We also have to climb a small cliff, inch our way along a rock so narrow it's like walking a tightrope covered in seaweed, and scramble through a tunnel dripping with seawater. But still the crow's nest doesn't seem to be getting any closer. Once, when Rose and I were staying with Grandad, we swam out to a diving platform in the sea. From the beach it looked easy, but I soon got tired and only managed to reach the platform because Rose kept me calm. There's no Rose to keep me calm now, just Wynne, a wizard ninja who keeps shouting "Magic!" at the top of his voice and laughing like a maniac whenever a big wave hits us. Wynne also does a lot of reminiscing and seems keen to focus on all the terrible things we've done to Croaky. Do you remember when Rose stole his head? He calls as he walks along a rock, his arms out for balance. She put it on a unicorn's horn and the unicorn ran into the forest and Croaky went dashing after it, bumping into trees and falling over. Oh, and then there was that time we nicked the raven because Croaky had been terrorising the mermaids. You must remember that. Kind of, I say weakly. Now the mist is so thick I can only see the rocks that's directly in front of me. The crow's nest is completely hidden from view. This doesn't slow Win down. If anything, he starts to jump between the rocks even faster. "We tied Croaky to the mast," he shouts. "Remember? It was so funny. A bird stole some of his straw to make a nest and the mermaids came to jeer." Win cackles, but I don't. We pause on a rock high above the sea. "Win, don't you think Croaky will have a serious grudge against us?" "Definitely. But when we get to the crow's nest, you're sure we can, beat him like we used to, even without Rose?" "Yeah, probably. Win, all we've got to help us fight Croaky, a scarecrow who can drain our energy just by placing twiggy fingers on us and squeezing, is a wooden sword and some apples. Don't forget my lethal wakizashi and even more lethal magic." I shake my head. We've not thought this through properly. Rose used to come up with our best ideas. Maybe we should, I don't know, come up with a better plan. A better plan than going along the magic road, getting into the crow's nest, whacking Croaky and saving your granddad. Win slaps me on the shoulder and the mist twists around us. "It's an amazing plan, Arthur. And don't forget, I'm half wizard. Since you've been gone, I've learned some wicked new spells." "Really? This sounds promising." "Yes, I can even make fruit change colour. In fact, I'll get into wizard mode right now so that I'm ready." With one hand, he pulls up his hood so that it makes a pointed hat. Suddenly, the reality of what we're about to do sinks in. "Win, the thing is, my granddad has asthma. It makes him hard to breathe. If Croaky stuffed him, what will that do to his breathing?" "Well, I've never been stuffed. Not properly. But when Croaky drained me, I felt everything sort of slow down. My breathing, my heartbeat." I shake my head. "Win, we can't risk mucking this up. Let's go back and find someone who can help us get in the castle. Because if Croaky catches us too, there will be no one to save Grandad or us." Arthur?" Winnie's staring ahead. "I think it's too late for that." "What do you mean?" I peer into the thinning mist. At first I can't see anything, but then I make out a black shape. It's a figure standing dead still on a rock, arms outstretched, stick fingers spread wide. It's wearing a black leather coat, ragged and torn, with swirls in the mist. Its head hangs forward and a pair of wings tremble in the wind. A solitary crow sits on its shoulder. "Is that Croaky?" I whisper. "Yep," says Win, and automatically we shuffle closer together. "He's like those scarecrows we saw earlier, right?" I stare at the top of Croaky's head. "Right now he's asleep, not at home." "Croaky's always at home," says Win. "Maybe he's having a rest, or doing it to freak us out." In a flash, Croaky's head snaps up and a pair of round button eyes lock onto mine. Win and I grab hold of each other as Croaky's stuffed arms flop down and his wings spring open on his back. The crow takes off with a shrill caw. Then Croaky's twig fingers curl into fists and a grin spreads across his pale sack-like face. "Definitely doing it to freak us out," whispers Win. In one swift movement, Croaky crouches, then springs forward and starts to jump effortlessly from rock to rock, moving closer towards us. "Croaky's just a boy like us," I say, gripping Win's arm. Win laughs weakly. "Not really a boy, more a scarecrow with wings." I force myself to smile. "You're right, he's just a big straw bird." With powerful legs and life-sapping hands and a deranged mind and not helping Win. I squeeze his arm tighter and stop my hands from shaking. Croaky pauses in a crouch, then bounds forward again. Win nudges me. "Don't worry, mate, he's outnumbered." "But I'm no good at fighting," I say, my voice a whisper, even though Croaky's still a few rocks away. "In fact, I've never properly thumped anyone in my life." Win snorts. "You've thumped Croaky 100 times. I mean, I haven't thumped anyone outside of Raw. In real life," I add in my head. "And I don't want to thump anyone, not even Croaky." My voice rises in panic. "At school I was a playground mediator." Win's eyes flick back to me. "What are you on about, Arthur?" "I'm trained to sort situations out using a bag of rocks, your fists, nunchucks." "No, words." Croaky takes a flying leap and lands on the rock immediately opposite ours. His shoulders are hunched and his head is angled down again. Mist wraps around him. "Words, Arthur," says Win. "Words? Croaky will eat your words before stuffing them back into your mouth and dumping you and your words into the sea." "Words are actually very powerful." Croaky's head lifts. "Ooh, he looks scary. You don't like the look of him very much." "But are words as powerful as him?" Win hisses. Croaky's stuffed body ripples in anticipation and his wings pull back. He stares at me and his grin spreads even wider across his moon-like face. I'm so scared I have to remind myself to breathe. "Arthur Trout," he rasps. I blink and try to swallow away my fear. Underneath his leather coat, Croaky's wearing rippled black jeans and straw poking out of the holes and hot black high tops. His dirty yellow hair sticks out as wildly as his feathers. "When did he get so muscly?" I whisper to Win. Croaky's arms look overstuffed, bulging with straw. "When he started eating mermaids." "What?" He smiles weakly. "Joke." I feel faint. "Win, do me a favour. Don't do any more jokes for a bit." "Okay, but you need to say something. This is getting weird." He's right. It is. Croaky's grinning at me in silence. I clear my throat and force myself to look into his hard eyes. "Hello?" I say in a small voice. Win thumps me. "Hello? Say something tougher than that." Croaky, we've not come to cause you any trouble." "We have," shouts Win. "Massive trouble." Now it's my turn to thump him. "We just want my granddad back. I don't want to blame you for something you haven't done, but all the evidence seems to point towards you having stolen him." Croaky still doesn't speak. He just watches me, his button eyes glittering. "Maybe stolen isn't quite the right word. I mean, maybe you were trying to help him. Was that it? If so, thank you for helping my granddad, but I'd like to take him home now, please. Perhaps we could all go back to the crow's nest and collect him." Croaky raises a hand and points a knobbly twig finger at me. "I'm going to get you, Arthur Trout." His voice is a rusty nail snarl. "I'm going to get you and your sister just like I got your pathetic, snivelling granddad." Something hot like fire stirs inside me, a flicker of something that I haven't felt for a long time. I let go of Win and step forward. "My granddad has never snivelled in his life." The wind whips my words away, and Croaky's eyes widen into light. "Oh, yes, he has. He snivelled when I found him in that tunnel and pulled him into Raw. He snivelled when I chained him up in my dungeon, and he snivelled when I ripped this off his back." He flings open his jacket to reveal that he's wearing Grandad's No Problema t-shirt. I shake my head in horror. "What sort of weirdo steals an old man's t-shirt?" Croaky laughs and points at himself with both twig thumbs. "This sort of weirdo. But he still didn't shut up, Arthur, so today I was forced to drain all the moaning and snivelling out of him." As he says these words, his hands pressed together in front of him, like he's reliving the moment he crushed the life out of my granddad. "You stuffed my granddad!" My voice is weak. "Oh, yes, Arthur," he says with delight. "He's a scarecrow now." Horror crashes through me as hard as the waves hitting the rocks by my feet. Win puts his hand on my shoulder, keeping me steady on my feet. "Where's Rose, by the way?" says Croaky, his eyes flicking behind us. "I thought I'd be catching 2 little trouts today. Did you 2 come as a pair?" I lift my chin. "Rose isn't here," I say, "and I'm actually glad she didn't crawl with me into the camp bed. No matter what Rose has done, I never wanted to feel this scared." Croaky smiles. "Then I'll have to make do with what I've got. Do you think your granddad would enjoy a dip in the bottomless ocean?" He peers down at the crashing waves. "It's difficult to swim when you can't move a muscle." I lunge forward, but Win pulls me back, shouting, "Weapons, Arthur, weapons!" I stick my hand into my rucksack and pull out a wooden sword. Win holds his wakizashi in one hand and his wand in the other. "Wait," he whispers. "I'll hit him with a snarling spell. He won't be able to move and you can go up there and thump him." Before I can say anything, Win has leaped forward, raised his wand high above his head and cried, "Pigeon fudge!" There's a bang and stars and smoke burst from his hand. When the smoke clears, we see that the wakizashi is now tightly gripped in Croaky's hand. With a cackle, he swishes it through the air. "I think I did the sharing spell by mistake," cries Win. "Did I say pigeon fudge or smidgen fudge?" But we don't have time to discuss Win's spectacularly rubbish magic because Croaky has raised the wakizashi high above his head and is already leaping through the air towards our rock. "Run!" I yell.